Jehovah promises that he will help you. We must have faith in Jehovah's power to help us and trust in that promise. Anxious, strong faith, anxiety, opposition, study.
Most people think Kenneth E. Cook Jr. became powerful in 2018. They are wrong. The real promotion happened in 2017, and the organization never made a public announcement about it. One word changed his life: assistant. That one word is the key to understanding how a printer became a global gatekeeper. But here is the secret they didn't want you to notice. That 365-day gap holds the entire story. Now let us look at what they actually published. On January 24, 2018, the official announcement went live on jw.org. It was a Wednesday morning. The Bethel families in the United States and Canada gathered to hear the news. The announcement said Kenneth E. Cook Jr. had been added to the governing body. It gave some background. He was born and raised in South Central Pennsylvania. He learned the truth from a classmate just before graduating high school. He was baptized on June 7, 1980. He started full-time service as a regular pioneer on September 1, 1982. He was invited to Bethel and began serving at Wallkill, New York on October 12, 1984. All of that is straightforward. It is a nice little biography. It sounds like a faithful man who worked his way up. But here's where the omissions start. The announcement says he served in various assignments for the next 25 years. Various assignments. That is the phrase they used. It sounds impressive. It sounds like he was doing important things. But what does various assignments actually mean? It means he worked in the printery, the printing factory, and the Bethel office. That's it. For 25 years, he was not writing doctrine. He was not teaching at their school. He was not traveling the world as a speaker. He was in a factory. And the announcement completely skips over that reality. It packages it as various assignments and moves on. That's omission number 1. Here's omission number 2. The announcement mentions his marriage in 1996, but it does not mention that his wife, Jamie, joined him in Bethel service. That's a minor detail, but it's still missing. And here's omission number 3. The announcement mentions December 2009 when he was transferred to the Watchtower Educational Center at Powderson. It says he was assigned to the Writing Correspondence Department. That sounds important, writing correspondence. It sounds like he was sheeping doctrine. But here's the truth. The Writing Correspondence Department answers letters from the public. It's a customer service role. It's not a policy-making role. It's answering mail. So for 25 years in a factory, then a few years answering letters, that's his resume before 2017. And then in January 2017, everything changed. They appointed him a helper to the writing committee. One word: helper. And that one word is the key to everything. But here's the question you're probably asking right now. What is the writing committee, and why does being a helper to it matter so much? We are going to answer that in the next section. But first, we need to understand why a factory worker was even considered for this role in the first place. And that brings us to the 25-year blank space. 25 years. That's a quarter of a century. From October 12, 1984 to December 29th, Kenneth Cook worked at the Wallkill Bethel facility. That's 25 years in one place. The official biography says he served in various assignments in both the printery and the Bethel office. Let's be honest about what that means. The printery is a printing factory. It produces literature, millions of pages, bound books, magazines, tract after tract after tract. Kenneth Cook was not writing those books. He was printing them. For 25 years, he was surrounded by machines, ink, paper, deadlines, shift work. That was his daily reality. Now, there's nothing wrong with factory work. It's honest work. It's hard work. But here's the problem. The governing body is the highest decision-making body in the organization. They formulate doctrines, they oversee global activities, they are the final authority on everything. So when you look at the other members of the governing body, you see a pattern. Many of them have backgrounds in teaching or traveling oversight or missionary work. They've spent decades in ministry. They've spoken at large conventions. They've trained others. Kenneth Cook spent 25 years in a factory. That's not a criticism. That's an observation. And it raises a very obvious question. How does a factory worker become the final gatekeeper of global religious literature? The official biography doesn't answer that question. It glosses over it. It uses the phrase various assignments and hopes you don't think too hard about it. But we're thinking about it. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Because in December 29th, after 25 years at Wallkill, he was transferred to the Watchtower Educational Center at Powderson. That's a different facility, a different role. And that's when he joined the Writing Correspondence Department. Now, writing correspondence sounds fancy, but it is exactly what it sounds like. It is the department that writes back to people who send letters to the organization. Questions about the Bible, questions about publications, requests for information. It is a mailroom, a very theological mailroom, but a mailroom nonetheless. So for the next several years, Kenneth Cook was answering letters, not writing policy, not shaping doctrine, not teaching thousands of people, answering mail. And then, in April 2016, something changed. He and his wife were transferred to Brooklyn, New York. 5 months later, they relocated to world headquarters in Warwick, New York. He was getting closer to the center of power, but he still was not there yet. That happened in January 2017. And that is where the real story begins. January 2017. That is the month everything changed, but almost nobody noticed. In January 2017, Kenneth Cook was appointed to serve as a helper to the writing committee of the governing body. Helper, that is the word. Now here's why this matters. The writing committee is one of the most important committees within the governing body. It oversees all the publications, all the literature, all the doctrinal content that millions of people read and study. If you are a Jehovah's Witness, almost everything you read comes through this committee. And in January 2017, Kenneth Cook became a helper to that committee. Notice the word helper, not member, helper. It's an assistant role, a supporting role, a behind-the-scenes role. But here's the thing. This role is not announced to the public. There's no press release. There's no fanfare. It's an internal appointment. Only the Bethel families and the organization insiders know about it. So in January 2017, Kenneth Cook quietly became a helper. And then, exactly 1 year later, on January 24th, 2018, he was announced as a full member of the governing body. 1 year. That's an incredibly short time. Think about it. He spent 25 years in a factory, then a few years answering letters, then 1 year as a helper, and then he's suddenly on the governing body. That's a meteoric rise by any standard. But here's the question that nobody is asking. What happened in that 1 year? What did he do as a helper that convinced the governing body to promote him so quickly? The official sources do not say. They just state the facts. January 2017, helper. January 2018, member. The gap is silent. And that silence is where the speculation begins. Some people might say he was being groomed, that the helper role was a trial period, that he passed the test and was promoted. Others might say the helper role is just a formality, that the decision was already made, that January 2017 was just a stepping stone to January 2018. But here's the thing, we do not know. The organization has not explained it. And that's exactly why this video exists, because the hidden year, 2017, is the key to understanding everything. But there's another layer to the story, a layer that involves the language the organization uses to describe his career, and that language is carefully chosen. Words matter. The official biography of Kenneth Cook uses very specific language. Let's look at it again. He served in various assignments in both the printery and the Bethel office. Various assignments. That phrase is doing a lot of work. It's vague, it's non-specific. It sounds impressive without actually saying anything. Now compare that to how they describe other governing body members. Some of them have backgrounds as missionaries. They traveled to foreign countries, they learned new languages, they started congregations from scratch. Some of them were traveling overseers. They visited hundreds of congregations. They trained thousands of elders. Some of them were teachers at the Watchtower Bible School. They trained future leaders. Kenneth Cook worked in a printing factory. And the biography uses the same language, various assignments, to describe them all. That is the linguistic trap. They use the same words to describe very different things. It is not a lie, it is technically true. He did have various assignments. But those assignments were not the same as a missionary's assignments. They were not the same as a traveling overseer's assignments. They were factory assignments. And by using the same vague language, the organization creates the impression that all these rules are equally important. But they are not. A printing press operator and a missionary are not doing the same work. They are not developing the same skills. They are not gaining the same experience. And yet the official biography treats them as if they are interchangeable. That is the linguistic trap. Now, here's another example. He was assigned to work with the writing correspondence department. That sounds like he was writing, like he was crafting doctrine, like he was shaping the beliefs of millions. But the writing correspondence department answers letters. It is a customer service department. Again, it is not a lie. It is technically true. He did work with that department. But the language creates a false impression. It makes a mailroom job sound like a policy-making job. And that is the trap. The organization is not lying, they are just choosing their words very carefully. And most people do not notice, but now you do. Now, here is another angle that most people miss entirely. It involves something completely unrelated to the organization. It involves the internet and search engines and a lot of confusion. Because when you search for Kenneth E. Cook Jr., you don't just find the governing body member. You find dead people. Here is something strange. If you search for Kenneth E. Cook Jr. online, you will find death notices, multiple death notices. There is a Kenneth E. Cook Jr. from South Kingstown, Rhode Island, who passed away on September 18, 2022 at the age of 87. There is another Kenneth E. Cook Jr. from Springfield, Massachusetts, who was born on November 24, 1932, and passed away on April 22, 2018. There is another one who died on March 5, 2023, at the age of 76. And there is a Kenneth Edward Cook Jr. from Oklahoma who passed away on September 23, 2019, at the age of 52. That is 4 different men, all named Kenneth E. Cook Jr., all dead. And then there's the Kenneth E. Cook Jr., who is a member of the governing body, very much alive. So when someone searches for his name, they find obituaries, they find funeral notices, they find memorial pages, and they get confused. They think he is dead, but he's not. This is a real problem. It is a search engine nightmare, and it creates a lot of misinformation. Now here is the question. Does the organization know about this confusion? Probably. They have a media office. They have public information officers. They monitor how their members are perceived. But they have not done anything to clarify it. They have not issued a statement saying, "Our Kenneth Cook is alive and well." They have not added a disclaimer to his biography. They just let the confusion continue. And that's interesting, because if you were trying to protect the reputation of a governing body member, you would want to make sure people do not think he is dead, but they don't. Why? Maybe they don't care. Maybe it isn't a big deal. Maybe they're too busy with other things. Or maybe they benefit from the confusion. because when people search for his name and find obituaries, they might assume he is no longer in power. They might stop paying attention. That's speculation, but it's worth considering. Now there is one more piece to this puzzle. It involves a YouTube video, a video with only 2,700 views, and that video reveals something interesting about how Kenneth Cook presents himself. There is a YouTube video about Kenneth E. Cook, Jr. It is titled, "Ken Cook Shows Us the JW Writing Committee, Yippee." It was uploaded on October 3, 2018. It has about 2,707 views. That's a tiny number. For an organization with millions of members, a video about a governing body member should have more views, but it doesn't. And that tells us something. The video was uploaded just a few months after his appointment. It was his first public appearance as a new member. In the video, he shows the writing committee. He explains what they do. He gives a tour. It's a simple video, low production value, no fancy graphics, just a man talking. But here's what's interesting. His demeanor is calm, professional, unassuming. He doesn't come across as a powerful leader. He comes across as a regular guy, a factory worker who got promoted. And that's exactly what he is. Now here's the thing about that video. It's one of the only public-facing videos of him. There are no interviews with major news outlets, no profiles in mainstream media, no documentaries. Just this one video with 2,700 views. And that brings us to a bigger question. Why is there no media coverage? Why have CNN, BBC, and local newspapers never done a profile on him? He is a member of the governing body of a global religion. Millions of people follow his leadership, and yet the media has ignored him. That is not an accident. It's a pattern. And that pattern is what we're going to explore in the next section, because the media blackout around Kenneth Cook is not just about him, it's about the entire organization, and it raises some uncomfortable questions.